Well, subject of today's discussion would be Masters of the Universe Minis, Wave 3. So in this wave there is 8 different figurines or 8 different characters released, and some of them are just the variants of already existing characters. So in front of you you have 7 out of 8, so there is obviously one missing. So let's start the ones that have already seen release before. That would be He-Man and Skeletor. So this time they are just variations of the classic versions of them, and these particular versions would be Battle Armor He-Man, who's actually wearing an armor. And in the vintage Masters of the Universe figures, this variation also existed, where you could practically touch with the sword the letter H on his chest, and then it would flip and show H with one crease across, and then touch it again, it would show then 2 creases. In other words, as if He-Man was wounded or severely wounded. And the same idea was for the battle armor Skeletor. So these this figure, this version of He-Man and this version of Skeletor are based on the 80s battle armor figures, and of course these variations showed up in the Masters of the Universe Classics by Mattel back in the day. So let's take a look at the He-Man one first. So unlike the classic version that has a harness with a little red cross, that particular previous version comes with just a power sword. But this time around, this version of He-Man comes with 2 weapons. It comes with the sword and a battle axe. Unfortunately, no shield. But at least he has 2 more weapons compared to the other one. And he has the same type of articulation as any of these minifigures do. So he has articulation in the shoulders, and then in the waist, and in the head. The legs cannot move, and there is no other articulation as much, not even in wrists, so the wrists cannot move. Nothing in the biceps either, and legs are static. So I'll just show you then how he looks next to the regular version, meaning the one on my left. So the only other difference I could tell between them is that the skin tone is a bit different, so it's not exactly the same. But otherwise the sculpt and the body type is pretty much the same, aside from the difference of the extra weapon with the one on the right, and the facial expression is pretty much the same. So yeah, and another difference when it comes to this particular wave, they were not packaged in little castle capsules like the wave 1 and 2. They were actually packaged in this kind of packaging, which is more of a reminiscent of the red cards of the vintage Masters of the Universe. So this is how they came packed in for this particular wave. They don't look anything extraordinary. I mean, the front is obviously imitating the vintage style packaging, and it says Eternia Minis on top. And at the back here is just a bunch of warnings, instructions, and where it was made, and it has in a couple of different languages the instructions and warnings and such. But there is no figure guide, so you don't get any inside on the back. So there is nothing of that. And then there is a big plastic bubble that cushions the figure and the weapons inside. So that's pretty much all. And it does have, however, the little mini checklist, just like in the first wave and in the second wave. But that's about it. And so it's the packaging this time around is rather very plain, not very interesting. It would have been better if it had another type of plastic castle, like let's say Snake Mountain again, or Castle Grayskull or something of that sort, but not this time. So let's take a look at the next one. That would be the Battle Armor Skeletor. So again, he's a counterpart of its. He's just a version of a figure that already came out in the 80s and then in the classics as well. And unlike the classic version of Skeletor, this one has a different armor. Same kind of idea about the gimmick that I explained regarding He-Man, except these minifigures do not have those gimmicks, so you cannot really flip these emblems. They're just there, but you cannot do a whole lot with them. They're just sculpted on. Now, the main difference between these guys is, again, both of them come with the Havoc stuff, except one major difference is the battle armor version comes with a sword, while the classic one does not. The regular version does not. And other than that, again, there is maybe a slight difference in the color of the skin. Facial expression is more or less the same, even though this particular Skeletor has his eyes sort of looking on the side for some reason. And articulation is again pretty much the same as the He-Man one, so no differences there. And comes in the same type of red card packaging. So yeah, that's Battle Armor Skeletor. Then for the first time now we get some female characters in the minis, which was a long time coming to actually see some of them, and it's a nice touch to include at least some. So the first one we have here is Evil-Lyn, who is a part of the Evil Warriors and a close associate of Skeletor. So she comes with a small magic staff that fits in either of her hands. She has an oversized head and she's wearing her classic outfit with a helmet. And her color scheme is based on the vintage 80s toy. So she's not a Filmation version or anything like that. Will there be another version where she would have a different color scheme? I'm not sure this time, but this is the only one that's out there. And she has same type of articulation. Again, the arms can move up and down. There is waist movement. The legs are static, so they cannot move. The head can move, but ever so slightly, at least on mine, it's kind of stiff. So it can move a little bit to the left and right, but nothing major. No no wrist articulation of any kind. So, but she still looks okay. At least there is an attempt to include her. And this is how she looks next to Skeletor. The major thing about her compared to Skeletor is that she's made with a larger head. So, but other than that, she looks pretty good. Then the second lady included in this particular wave would be Teela. Now you're probably wondering, why does she look like this? I was kind of wondering that myself. But I understand she's based on the idea of a sort of an alternate Eternia where the heroic warriors are all evil, including He-Man. So her name would be Anti-Eternia Teela. So this is, I am assuming this is pretty much how the regular version of Teela will look like when she finally comes out. I don't quite understand the logic why they did not release the classic version, meaning how she would look with her normal colors first and then this one later down the road, and instead they release her first, meaning the evil version first. I am not quite sure I understand there why is it like that, but okay. So anyway, this is the Anti-Eternia version of Teela, the evil version. She comes with a snake staff, so there is no snake armor or even a shield or a sword or anything like that, so she only comes with her snake staff, which is pretty much the same type of stuff she had since the vintage toy back in the 80s and then in the classics and so forth. Same type of articulation as Evil-Lyn. She's in a color scheme of red and black, and of course her hair remains brown. So that would be Teela, and let's just take a look at them side by side, Evil-Lyn and her. I've seen pictures that there is a regular version of her coming, but I believe in one of the future waves down the road. And this Teela, because she's a nasty version, she has red eyes, red beaming eyes. So the next character in this wave would be Ninjor. Now you're probably wondering, who is this guy, for some of you who are not familiar with him. He never appeared in the old Filmation cartoon series or in any of the He-Man cartoon incarnations. He did, however, show up in the comics, in the some of the mini comics, and then in some of the other comics that were published through Marvel back in the day. So he's just a sort of a newer type henchman near the end of the run of the original Masters of the Universe, so around 1986, thereabouts. He was introduced into the story as a sort of a mercenary who works for Skeletor along with Scareglow and Blast Attack. So this fellow is obviously a ninja. He has seen action figures of himself being made, one in the 80s and then another in the Masters of the Universe Classics. He is wearing a ninja outfit. He comes with a little tiny, very short blade samurai sword or a katana blade. Other than that, he doesn't come with any other weapons, but it is interesting to note that his actual action figure counterparts did come with more than just a ninja sword. They also came with the nunchucks, and they also came with a bow and arrow. And some of those could be stored at the back of him. And the vintage version was able to remove the mask and the cowl and everything, to just remove and reveal his face. But since this is a minifigure, that's not possible. But he looks exactly the way he did as a vintage figure, in the same exact outfit. So that's neat. That was a surprise that they would show a couple of figures that were from the beginning of the original He-Man action figure line, and then suddenly they would jump and produce a figure that came at the very end of the old line. So that's kind of interesting that they decided to mix up the characters from different periods of the original line to just sort of start mingling them together. So anyway, this would be Ninjor, articulation wise same as He-Man and Skeletor and the rest, and same type of packaging, coming on a red card, mini red card. Then the last figure would be Stratos, the Lord of Avion. Stratos is obviously a heroic warrior, an ally of He-Man, and he has seen many action figures of him made over since the 80s, and also in the 2000X cartoon series and a toy line, and of course in the Masters of the Universe Classics he has seen the regular version of his figure made, and then of course a repaint and a Filmation version as well. So this would be the mini version of Stratos, who comes with his jetpack, just like the vintage toy, and the jetpack is not removable, and he comes with the wings that are sculpted onto his wrists, and those wings are also not removable, so nothing can be removed from him. Same articulation as the rest, and the head, again, just like Evil-Lyn, is a little bit too tight, but you can move it at least somewhat to the left and the right. And the interesting thing to note, makes me wonder, will they do the same for the for this mini version if it's released again somewhere down the line? In the original 80s line, Stratos was released in this color scheme, meaning jetpack would be blue and the wings would be red. But somewhere down the line there was a variation of Stratos that had almost exactly the same, it was exactly the same figure with some minor difference there. The old figure came in a second variation that would have blue wings and red jetpack. And the same idea was then repeated again in the Masters of the Universe Classics, where Stratos was released in two variations in particular to mimic the regular and the variant from the 80s. So for the moment, this is the regular version. It has red wings and a blue jetpack, and we'll see, will Mattel release a minifigure of him with the reversed colors of the wings and the jetpack. So yes, this would be Stratos. And the first wave saw the release of his sidekick or a close friend, Raman. Now, the only figure that I mentioned at the beginning of the video that's actually missing here would be the figure of Raman. Now, since that particular figure, there is only one major difference about it. That's an Anti-Eternia version of Raman, so he's just like Teela, all in black and red. Comes with the same weapon, it's just an axe. And I found it kind of boring to just get the exact same figure all over again just because it has a different paint job and whatnot. So that one I completely bypassed, so that's why he's not on this display at all. But these other ones had a point, pretty much. Now, I will also mention that at this point in time it's rather difficult to notice any, or to find any, that is, minifigures from the second wave of the minis that came packaged inside a miniature Snake Mountains castles. So at this time I have none of those, so it will take time to even come across any. It seems that they came and went through the stores rather fast, so hopefully some of those characters will be reissued again, because that second wave had mostly repaints of already existing characters, but it had 3 particular characters that were actually not repaints but introduced as first edition. So that would be Beastman, Faker, and Stinkor. And unfortunately I missed out on those 3, so who knows, maybe somewhere down the line, if I do ever manage to find them, I will show them to you guys and give you the gist of it about those guys as well. So this would be it for the Wave 3 of the Masters of the Universe minis by Mattel. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.